We'll get going in just 1 second, guys. Just hang tight for a few. All right, we're gonna get started. So make sure you guys turn your screens on so I can give you guys all attendance, please. Okay, like I said on Tuesday, lecture today isn't going to be very long at all. I know I said we were gonna go over chapter 12 a little bit again, so we'll do that in just a second if you guys actually have questions. And then we're gonna kind of introduce chapter 13, which is a huge chunk of administration, scoring, and interpretation of all sorts of tests, okay? And then we are going to go over that section for your actual project for your 420 class, and then go over your next proper form assignment that you guys have, so you can all start going on that. Those assignments are going to start coming up super, super fast. And sometimes you're going to have 2 assignments due in a week. So I want to make sure we are fully aware of what we need to do, and I'm not just throwing you guys to the wolves and things like that. Okay. Any questions whatsoever on chapter 12 and administering tests and things like that, and why we actually do it? Nobody has any questions whatsoever. Okay, we will touch base a little bit more on that as well next week, okay, as we go into it. Just remember, you guys, like we talked about, when we are talking about actually choosing what tests that we really need to do, what are some of the things that we need to decide on how we choose what tests that we choose? Do you guys remember anything about that?
Experience.
Experience is one of them. Yes. Okay. So obviously if you have an experienced athlete or you have a novice athlete, your testing protocols and the tests that you choose will be different. That was good. That was one thing. What else do we have? Think about the demands of the sport.
Wouldn't it be age too? Because you wouldn't test like youth the same way you would test an older athlete?
Absolutely. Right. So if we were thinking about a youth athlete, remember when we're training a youth athlete, it's also going to be very different than a more advanced athlete, adolescent, college age, adult, anything like that. We're trying to keep things simple. Okay. So youth athletes, we're just looking at obviously general movement mechanics and things of that nature and almost keeping it fun. Okay. What do we have to think about when we think in terms of the actual sport and the energy demands of the body? This is a big one, guys.
Is it like what type of workout, like preseason workout, like difference between those?
Kind of. Okay. So, but let me try to give you guys a different example. Okay. So if I have a distance runner, okay, and then I have a basketball player, since we did kind of talk about basketball last time, what is different about the energy demands on the body with both those sports?
One of them is aerobic and one of them is anaerobic.
Exactly. Okay. So you are using 2 different energy systems in your body for those sports. Yes, I know eventually in anything, you're not just using one energy system the entire time. Okay. So even if you are an aerobic athlete in the beginning of your actual Competition, you might still be using anaerobic, but it's obviously going to switch into aerobic. Basketball, it's short sprints up and down the court. It's more anaerobic. So if we're thinking in terms of that, okay, we're going to need to pick testing that is in the energy demand of the body. So if I am a basketball player, and we did talk about this on Tuesday, there really is no reason for me to be testing my aerobic capacity, right? I'm going to be testing anaerobic capacity, muscular power, muscular strength, all those types of things, okay? If I am a distance runner, then I'm definitely going to be testing for aerobic capacity and maybe muscular endurance, okay? You have to think about that energy demand in your body, okay? Your muscles are working differently, okay? As a basketball player, I need those type 2 muscle fibers. I need that to recruit them quickly. They need to be firing very quickly. As an actual distance runner or someone that is more endurance based, my muscle fibers, my energy system needs to work over a long period of time. Okay, so that is definitely something that we need to think about in terms of what types of tests we're choosing. What are some of the things that could happen between that could cause issues between actual raters or the individuals that are scoring the test?
You said the grader should keep grading that same event.
Good. All right. Do you guys know why?
So that it can, so basically that, I guess you're trying to get a more accurate
Yeah.
result. So you don't want to have two different people doing this, you know.
You guys are both absolutely right on that. Yep. Okay. So you want the same rater to, or administrator, however you want to call them, doing each test. Okay. So we use the t-test, for example. If I was doing it and then I had another colleague jump in, honestly, even if it's just a minimal amount of error, okay, we all press the stopwatch differently. Okay. Our reaction time is different. Okay. Obviously, if we had one of those a time thing where you could run through and that actually doesn't computer based, that's probably the most accurate. But a lot of the times we are not equipped with those types of things. So it's human error that we want to try to avoid, and we want it to be as accurate as possible. So yes, we're going to stick with the same rater. Okay. Also, we want to make sure, what do we want? Do we want to make sure that we are telling our athletes about the tests in advance, or just the day before or day of?
In advance.
In advance, exactly. Okay. And you also want to make sure that you are giving, you could have a test trial day, okay, or you're going to go through and let them know exactly what they're going to do. And come test day, you're going to allow them to go through these tests. Okay. They're not going to be beneficial. They're not going to be done correctly if the actual athlete has no idea how to do it. Okay. So these are all things that we have to remember. And then lastly, things along the lines of temperature. Okay, so we want to make sure we're trying, if it's really hot and humid, okay, that 80-degree mark or that 50% humidity or above. We want to test either indoors if we can. If we don't have that ability, we want to keep it in the morning or the evening. Okay, obviously cold testing temperatures, you want to watch out for that as well. And you want to keep it relatively the same. Again, this is always in a perfect world, and it doesn't really work out for us all the time that way, but these are things that you guys want to actually pay attention to. Okay. All right. Any questions on any of that I went over? That's basically the gist of what chapter 12 really is. Okay. If we don't have questions, let's go over, and we're just literally going to go through the first 9-10 slides of this. Okay. And then we're going to go off of that and then talk about the assignment that you guys will have for this. You don't need to do it yet, but I want you guys to start thinking about it as we implement chapter 13 a little bit more next week and go into the individual tests. Okay. So stop me if you guys have questions, obviously. Okay. So when we are measuring parameters of athletic performance, there's all sorts of different types. So this is all going to go into the different energy systems of our body. Okay. So we have maximal muscular strength tests. Okay. These are low speed tests. Okay. So remember that maximal muscular strength is a low speed. Can you guys off the top of your head think of any maximal muscular strength tests that maybe you have done or you are aware of? There's several, so. think in terms of, okay, so if we have a max squat test, I know I've used that before, whether it's a back squat or a front squat. Okay, so if you guys know that's a maximal muscular strength test, what other tests could we test for that? Let's think about something for the upper body. What would we do for the upper body?
Bench press.
Bench press, okay? That is a common one. There's also a bench pull. You guys don't have to worry about that right now. We'll go over that next week. But those are maximal muscular strength tests. It's basically your 1 repetition maximum. So if you guys think a 1 rep max test, that's what these are, okay? It's the most amount of weight that you can lift in 1 repetition, okay? So if you guys are going for lifting that max amount of weight, it's going to be low speed. It's not the same as power where you're trying to move the weight as fast as you can. So this is going to be low speed, okay? So it's related to the force a muscle or muscle group can exert in 1 maximal effort, like I just said. So your 1 repetition maximum, okay? Then we're gonna go to anaerobic or maximal muscular power test. So this is high speed strength. So whatever the actual weight is, we are moving this as quick as possible. Okay, can you guys think of, before I go into this, maybe what some power tests would be? And there's tons of them, okay? So you probably won't be wrong. Anyone have any idea maybe what a power test would be? Whoops, sorry. Can anyone think of like, or is anyone familiar with
box?
Say it again.
Oh, is it the what is it? Is it the box jump thing?
Box jump is one of them. Yep. Box jump, whether it's a reaction box jump, a seated box jump, anything along those lines. Okay, so yes, we have things like that. We have medicine ball throws, all those types of things. Can anyone think of maybe in terms of like Olympic power lifts? I know we might not be familiar with them, but do any of you guys know what some of those might be?
Is power clean one of them?
Power clean, hang clean, snatch, push press. And we will go into all of this stuff, guys, if you don't know what it is. Okay. But this is what anaerobic maximal power tests are. It's trying to move the weight as quickly as you possibly can. Okay. So it's related to the ability of muscle tissue to exert high force while contracting at high speed. Okay. May include vertical jump height and time to sprint up a staircase. Don't worry about the sprint up a staircase. There's a specific test for that I will show you guys with a video next week. It's kind of a goofy one, but it actually works. Okay, so that is the difference between a muscular power test and a maximal strength test. One has a speed component, the power. The maximal strength is the most that you can lift in 1 repetition, and it's going to be of a slower speed. Okay, so that's kind of what you guys got to take away from that. Okay, so then anaerobic capacity is maximal rate of energy production produced by a combined phosphagen and anaerobic glycolytic system for moderate duration activities. So now we're thinking activities within like 30 seconds, okay? And there's several tests that are performed in this. So no longer are we really doing resistance training lists. Now we're getting more into the sprinting capacity of it. Okay. So high rate of speed, but only while we are in that phosphagen and anaerobic glycolytic energy system. So remember, after we go past that 30 to maybe 50-second mark, we shift into aerobic glycolysis after that. Okay. So this is still for power speed, but now we're thinking more in terms of sprinting. Okay. Again, we will go over specific testing for this next week when I can show you guys. Okay. Local muscular endurance. Okay. The ability of certain muscles or muscle groups to perform repeated contractions against a submaximal resistance. Okay. So I know you guys have all heard of the YMCA bench press test, the curl up test, push up test. Anything that you are doing either to the pace of a metronome, which is basically set to a certain pace and you have to keep up with it, okay? Or something that you are doing to fatigue. This is going to be your muscular endurance. So like when we were talking about in terms of maybe a more aerobic athlete, these are probably going to be tests that are going to be a little bit more beneficial for them. Yes, you could still use it for an anaerobic athlete that is maybe a field athlete because they still do have some endurance base in them. But this local muscular endurance wouldn't be a test that you would give for a power athlete, say an Olympic style lifter or a shot putter, something along those lines. Okay. Any questions on any of those thus far? Okay. Moving right along. Okay, so then we get to aerobic capacity. So now aerobic capacity, we're in that aerobic system, energy system in our body. Okay, so it's the maximum rate at which an athlete can produce energy through oxidation of energy resources, carbs, fats, and proteins. So basically, case in point, your aerobic capacity, you are using oxygen now. Okay, you are not using just carbohydrates like you were in the other energy systems. Okay. Usually expressed as a volume of oxygen consumed per kilogram of body weight per minute. It's a mouthful, but it's called aerobic power. So now we're kind of thinking of VO2 max here. So you guys have heard that VO2 max, it's how well your body actually utilizes the oxygen that comes into there. Okay. There are VO2 max tests that you guys can do. Obviously, that's more clinical based, where you have that mass that it's measuring the air that's coming in and out. But there's also ones that are just timed and use your heart rate, okay, that are a little bit easier to administer that everyone can actually use to administer, okay? All right, we have just a few more slides, guys. This is why we're keeping it short. I don't want to overwhelm you on all of this. Okay, so now we're also thinking we've had obviously maximal power, maximal strength, anaerobic capacity, aerobic capacity. Okay, so now we're going into agility testing. Okay, so agility testing is going to be something where it's going to be athletes that are field or court based. Okay, most of the time, maybe not just single athletes, or not a power athlete such as shot put or something along those lines. So agility is the ability to change direction or speed of the whole body in response to a sport specific stimulus. Okay. So anytime you are going against another athlete, agility will be involved. Same thing if you're playing, even if you're just playing tennis and it's one-on-one, you have to be agile and react to where that ball is going, okay? So it's your ability to actually change direction and speed in response to a stimulus, okay? So agility testing is generally confined to a physical capacity testing such as change of direction, speed, or cognitive components such as anticipation. Okay, so if we're doing change of direction or speed, okay, it could be things along the lines of the 505 drill. I don't know if you guys have ever heard it. It's between 10 yards. You're starting in the middle, running 5 yards, switching directions, going another 10 yards, switching directions, and coming back through the middle. Okay, so it's working on your change of direction speed. Okay, so then if you're working on cognitive components such as anticipation, then maybe it's going to be in response to maybe if you're looking at a light change, you have to respond to a whistle, something along those lines that involves cognitive ability. Okay, do you guys kind of understand the difference between those two? It'll come more into play as we actually go through each test and you're able to see a video as well. So if you're confused, it's really okay. Okay. Just remember, agility changes speed or direction in the response to an actual stimulus. Okay. So then now we're moving to speed. Okay. So you guys are thinking sprint speed. Okay. So it's movement distance per unit of time, typically quantified as time taken over a covered distance. Okay. So most of the time speed, you guys are probably going to be testing in forms of just a linear sprint, whether it's 30 yards, 50 yards, 200 yards, 500 yards, 400 yards, whatever it may be. Okay, so thinking about movement distance per time. So how fast can you move a certain amount of distance? Okay, flexibility. Okay, all athletes can benefit from flexibility. So I'll hand that to you guys right now when you choose what you guys are doing. So every athlete needs to have that flexibility. Okay, and every athlete can be tested for that. It's basically range of motion around a body joint. Can you guys think of, and it's okay if you don't know the specific test, but certain muscles or joints where you would need to be flexible or you'd want to test in relation to most sports?
Hamstring.
Hamstrings is absolutely number one. So hamstrings and low back is going to be something that all athletes should be doing. What about an overhead athlete? Anybody that's using their arms? Where would we have to look for flexibility there?
Rotator cuffs.
Shoulders, rotator cuffs. Absolutely. All right. Good job. You guys are thinking well on this. Okay. We will go more into specifics, obviously, of what flexibility tests there are, because there's several. So when you guys go to choose what you want to do, you don't all have to do the same one. You can choose between them. Okay. Then there's also balance and stability testing. Again, this is something that all athletes should be doing. Okay. Balance and stability testing is great to do numero uno. Okay. Number one, so you can test to see their balance and range of motion around a joint, and also see if you're able to pick up on if there are any muscular imbalances or things of that nature. Okay. So the difference between balance and stability: balance is the ability to maintain static and dynamic equilibrium. Okay. So if you are standing on one leg and you're just standing there, nobody's touching you, no stimulus, nothing, you're just balancing, that's called balance. Okay. Stability is the ability to return to a desired position following a disturbance to the system. Okay, so if I were to do a cone touch on one leg, so unilateral cone touch, okay, and I bent down to touch the cone and I had to come back up, this would be stability. I'm moving my body through the disturbance, okay, or through the system. Okay. And then coming back to my resting stability. Okay. So if I'm doing, say, a cone touch, I'm working on ankle stability, knee stability, hip stability. Okay. So there's a difference. You are actually moving through a range of motion with this type of stability. As balance, maybe you're just standing still. Okay. Does this make sense to everybody? Okay. Last slide, guys. See, told you it's short. Okay, so body composition. This is just relative proportions by weight of fat and lean tissue. Okay. So obviously things like skin fold calipers, even if you guys have not used them, obviously if you've taken the fitness assessment class, you should have used them. I'm not sure if you all have yet, but also circumference, hip to waist ratio, those types of things. So that's what we're thinking in terms of body composition. Anthropometry, I can never say that word, is the science of measurement applied to the human body. So generally includes measurements of height, weight, and selected body girths. Okay, so this goes into your body composition. Okay. Body composition, I think obviously not all athletes, and I don't really use that with my high school athletes. I train high school females, okay? So putting body composition into it can be a fine line for them. Obviously, if you guys are college age athletes, you're gonna be using that to see how much lean muscle mass you actually have. Okay, yeah, you wanna measure the fat mass, but you are obviously a little bit more concerned about how much lean muscle mass you have, okay? Body circumference can obviously help measure the amount of muscle you have, or your hip to waist ratio. Obviously, we want to make sure that that's obviously measuring body fat, things along those lines. So there are rights and wrongs to using this. It's obviously a fine line, but there are definitely ways that you can do it too without a machine like a bod pod, where it's actually using pressure to measure everything. This is why a lot of the times we do field assessments like the pinch test, and actually using circumference measurements and things of that nature. Okay. All right. So any questions on the types of tests that there are, the different things that they actually measure? Okay. There are 1,000,001 different tests out there, guys. Okay. We are going to go over all of them that we have in the book next week. That doesn't mean that that's all the tests. That doesn't mean that every test that we go over in the book, I'm actually really a fan of. Some of them I just don't like. Some I like to keep things pretty simple. So when we do this next week, you guys are going to have to think in terms of your sport that you decided to use, and how you may be able to, or what tests you would actually be using to assess your athletes. Okay. So what I want to do really quickly before, let me find the sheet. Hold on one sec. Let me change my screens really fast, guys. Give me a second. Okay, you guys can all see this screen, right, on my Blackboard? Okay, so this is your 420 class. If there is a link on here that I am talking about that you guys cannot see, please tell me. Okay, I know we had that issue with the proper form assignment. Okay, it's all correct on my Blackboard, but obviously somehow it's not, might not be syncing with yours. So please let me know so I can fix it for you guys and send it. Okay, so this one you guys don't have, right? The very first one. Okay, I'm going to send you the actual explanation of picture and proper form in a Word document to you guys so you actually have it so you can reference it. Okay, all right. But where I was going with this, okay, so we're going to go down to test selection and administration. Okay, you guys still have, I believe, about 2 or 3 weeks before this is due. But if you look down here, this is going to be one of the next ones that you guys have due. Okay, so I wanted to go over this really quickly with you. Okay, and obviously I will bring in the projects that I have so you can look at and you can actually reference before you go to this. But okay, so it says for the test selection and administration to choose the appropriate fitness and performance assessments for your sport. Okay, so like everything that we've been talking about, you're going to do this in accordance to your sport. Okay, whether you're football, basketball, volleyball, baseball, okay, you're doing it according to you. Okay, so you're going to write a 1-page explanation of each assessment. Don't freak out that it's 1 page. It'll really be okay. Detailing the purpose of each test. Okay. So each test is going to have its separate page. So this is what I want you guys to take away from this. Whether it's a complete 1-page thing or it's 3/4, whatever it may be, if you can get the explanation across in 3/4 of a page, that is totally fine. Okay. But every single test is going to have its own page. Okay, you're going to add pictures to the explanation of the test you decide to choose. Okay, so if you can do the test, great. If you can't for this, because it's going to be a little bit difficult to have someone test you, I will allow you to use other pictures, but I really want you guys to try for it to be you. Even if it's not perfect, even if you don't have the equipment, you guys improvise. It's really okay. You're not going to get points docked off because you don't have exact proper equipment. Okay, I know we're dealing with COVID, all those types of things, so I'm very lenient on that portion of it. Okay, you have to choose 3 different tests that are appropriate to your sport. Okay, so this is what you guys are going to choose from. You're going to choose from maximal muscular strength, anaerobic muscular power, anaerobic capacity, local muscular endurance, aerobic capacity, agility, speed, flexibility, balance, stability. Okay, you can choose between all of those. Okay, it is your choice what you do, but you have to have only, I don't want you guys to have all muscular strength. Let me put it that way. Okay, so if you're going to pick a muscular strength, even if it's lower body, and I know you would have to do upper body as well, just pick one so I know that you're thinking in terms of muscular strength, and then go to something else. Okay, then maybe go to anaerobic capacity, and then maybe choose either an agility test or a flexibility balance test. Okay, I want to see that you guys are thinking of this in the broader base. Okay, because in reality, you'd probably choose 7 or 8 tests to actually complete, but we're not going to do that. Okay, make sure when you guys are doing this, you are putting it in the proper exercise order. Okay, so if your first test is an aerobic capacity test, and then you go to flexibility, and then you go to muscular power, which you shouldn't choose all those together anyways, then it is out of order. Okay, so remember, reference chapter 12, okay, where it goes non-fatiguing, agility, maximal muscular strength, anaerobic capacity, and then goes down. It should be in that proper order. Okay, so if you were to give this to someone, they would know how to do this. Okay, last thing that you guys are going to do is create a recording form for this section of the assessment. Okay, don't think you have to come up with this out of the blue. Okay, this is why you guys really need to be using your book. Okay, so chapters 12 and chapters 13 are going to be your saving grace for this actual project. Okay, you can reference other websites as well, which is totally fine, but please make sure they're from a reputable source. Okay, look on there, see who has written it. If it's just some random person and they have no designations, okay, it's probably not a source that we should be using. Okay, so they should have some form of certification to let you know that it's actually someone that you can validly trust. Okay, you obviously don't need to use other sources. You can obviously just use your book and that should help you enough, but be creative. Okay, do what you guys want to do. Okay, it doesn't need to be anything crazy. Keep it simple. Okay, this is why I'm telling you guys this now. So when it's due in 2 or 3 weeks, and I will look at the actual due date and put it up on Blackboard for you guys. You're not just going at it a day before and then freaking out and not knowing what to do. Okay, so this is one thing that you guys need to focus on. Okay, and then the next one that you also need to focus on is going to be your pictures in proper form explanation set number 2, which is going to be dynamic warm-up and flexibility. So let me bring up that sheet really quick and we can go over it. Hold on, gotta find it. Here we go. Okay, you guys can all see this, right? Okay, so like you guys did for the last one, we are now on dynamic warm-up and flexibility. Okay, so for your dynamic warm-up, okay, we have not done the flexibility or warm-up chapter yet, okay, but it's okay. You guys have all done dynamic warm-ups before, okay? You should be able to pick 10 dynamic warm-up movements, okay? This should be one of the easier ones for you guys. It's okay if it's not, okay? I'm here to help. But what I want you guys to think in terms of what movements are specific to your sport, okay? So a baseball warm-up is going to be different than a basketball warm-up, okay? It's gonna be different than a volleyball warm-up, okay? So whatever 10 dynamic movements you guys choose, okay, needs to be more specific towards your sport, okay? They're all gonna involve the hips, they're all gonna involve the shoulders, all those types of things, but maybe you can kind of gear it a little bit more towards your actual sport and make it your own, okay? It's not gonna be just general movements, skips, those types of things, okay? Make it more specific to you, okay? Questions on those 2 assignments, okay? I believe this one is due first in 2 weeks. Again, I will check. All the due dates are actually on your Blackboard, so you can look at it, but I will leave you guys an announcement that gives you the due dates. I just want to make sure you guys are aware that you have these things to do so it doesn't come up out of the blue and you're panicking that you have to get it done, okay? Any questions whatsoever on what I've gone over?
Do you want us to take pictures of those too?
Yes, please, if you can. The ones that did turn in your assignments, your pictures were great, okay? Like I said, it doesn't need to be, you guys, I'm not looking for perfection here. I know that this isn't really easy. If you can set up, if you want to add, I was going to say add video links, but no, don't add video links. I take that back because you're actually going to be putting it in a document. So if you're saying like doing a knee to chest stretch walking, just make sure you have the starting position and then the position where you're hugging your knee. So just 2 positions that we could see what you are doing. If you want to add one more to go through the full range of motion, that's fine. So just think of it in terms of if you guys are looking at a document, you have to be able to look at the pictures and have the explanation to know, or be able to know from the pictures what you have to do, okay? Again, you are writing as well the actual form or way that you do it. For this one, maybe it's not, you don't want to consider it form, it's more how you're actually going to do the movement kind of thing, okay? So same as last time, just now you're doing dynamic warm-ups, okay? Stick with what you guys all did. It was very, very good. I know there were like little tweaks that you guys had to do here and there, but for the most part, you guys did a great job, so just keep that up, okay? All right, if there's no more questions about this stuff, just before I let you guys go, and if you guys have questions about the stuff that I gave you, questions and comments, start working on these 2 assignments. Don't leave them until the end, okay? Next week, we have an entire week to go over all sorts of different tests that will be in chapter 13. So Tuesday, pending that there's not another snowstorm and the university says that we have to stay virtual, we will be in class. And then obviously Thursday, we will be in Zoom again. So I want to try to accomplish as much as we can in class on Tuesday as we're there, because I think it's a lot easier face-to-face than doing it over Zoom. Okay, make sure you guys are working on today. You guys have chapter 21 application questions due if you have not done it by the end of the day. And now start to work on chapter 12 and 13 when you guys can. So again, it doesn't creep up at the end. Okay. All right. If you don't have questions, have a great weekend. Otherwise, I will stick around because I know some of you had some questions on the comments that I gave you on your project. God, I just had a total brain fart. Sorry. All right. Have a good day, guys.
Okay. For the sports specific policies and procedures, you said you're going to send us a document for that?
The sports specific policies and procedures, you guys don't need to do that.
Okay.
Okay. If I don't go over an actual assignment with you, don't do it. I will tell you exactly what is due. So the sports specific policies and procedures, it might tell you on